Welcome to our Spotlight Speaker session now. We have Sabrina here. She is based in France. Her languages are French, English, and Spanish. And she studied in Ireland, and she will share with us her journey of becoming an interpreter. Sabrina, the floor is yours.
Hello to you all. I'm very happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me, Sarah. I hope you can all hear me properly.
Yes.
Okay, good. So as mentioned before, I'm Sabrina. I'm a freelance conference interpreter based in Toulon, which is in the French Riviera near Marseille, about an hour away from Marseille. And I currently work with French A, English B, and Spanish C. So today I'm going to tell you a little bit about my experience and my journey as a conference interpreter. I've I've almost always wanted to become a conference interpreter. I remember being around maybe 11 years old in middle school and thinking about what I wanted to study in the future. I knew I really loved foreign languages. I knew I loved English, especially, and afterwards Spanish. So in middle school, I went to my learning resource center and I stumbled on the profession of conference interpreter. And from then, I read more about the profession, I did more research, and I went to open doors days at universities near my hometown to learn more about the profession and how to get there and become an actual conference interpreter. And afterwards, I made up my mind quite quickly in middle school, so quite early on. And the idea never left my mind. It was my main objective from then on. I always thought conference interpreting was so fascinating and impressive, especially simultaneous interpreting, and I wanted to learn how to do it as well. So I embarked on studying languages as an undergraduate student in my hometown in Toulon in order to become a conference interpreter. I also really loved learning, studying in general, learning new things. I was always very curious, and maybe it's not too much of a surprise in the end. Um, since as conference interpreters, we learn so much about so many different topics, topics we wouldn't have heard of otherwise. I know I learned a lot about different topics that I didn't know much about at first, and now I can say I know quite a lot about many different topics. Therefore, there I was in my second year as an undergraduate student studying English as a foreign language and Spanish as a second foreign language. But the focus was mainly on English. When I remember the Erasmus program was mentioned in one of my classes. And right away, I thought it'd be a great idea to go on Erasmus in an English-speaking country to get more comfortable with the language and improve my knowledge of the language, broaden my horizons as well, learn more about another culture, and of course, talk with natives. So I applied to study in Galway, in Ireland, as an Erasmus student. It was my very first choice, and then I think my second choice was Scotland, I believe, and my third choice was Norway. In the end, my first choice was approved, so I was very happy to go to Ireland because I had never been before. And I embarked on my third year as an undergraduate student in Galway, where I spent almost a year as an Erasmus student. Afterwards, towards the end of my Erasmus, I was preparing to apply to conference interpreting school because that was still the main goal there. When I remember reading about the only master's degree in conference interpreting in Ireland at the University of Galway, where I was at the time. And I had such a wonderful time in Ireland that I thought I wouldn't mind staying a bit longer in the end. So I thought I'd try and apply for the master's degree in conference interpreting in Galway. I also applied to London Metropolitan University and passed the entrance exams for both universities. And in the end, I decided to accept Galway's offer and I've remained in Ireland, which is a country I particularly particularly love. In 2022, therefore, I started my first year as a conference interpreting student, and it was such an emotional and psychological roller coaster because I had to push myself like never before, and I had to learn how to manage my nerves and my stress and pressure as well. I had to learn how to let go of perfection, be less of a perfectionist, and learn to accept my mistakes, which I had a hard time to do at first, to be perfectly honest. And I had to learn how to manage feedback as well, and not necessarily associate the feedback I got from my trainers and my classmates with either my value as a person or as a conference interpreter. So there were a few obstacles there that I'm glad I managed to overcome. So yes, it was a challenging journey, definitely. And then in 2022, I finally graduated. So after 2 years as a student in conference interpreting, and afterwards I went back home to France, to my hometown, and I started working as a freelancer in September 2022, so only a few months after getting my master's degree. I started out with a lot of networking and a lot of volunteering assignments to keep practicing my interpreting technique, to keep working on my languages as well, and to meet new colleagues as well. And then in November 2022, I took part in what's called Model European Union in Strasbourg. I'm not sure you've heard of it before or if you know what it is exactly. But if you don't, it's a simulation of a European conference taking place at the European Parliament, so in the booths at the European Parliament in Strasbourg. And it's usually open, I believe, for either students in conference interpreting or young professionals, young interpreters who've just graduated. And so I had the opportunity to interpret in the booths of the European Parliament, which was such a privilege. And I was absolutely happy to be there. I had a great time there. I learned so much. And just to explain a little bit more about the concept of Model European Union in Strasbourg, or MEUS is the acronym. So each participant has a specific role. So there are different roles we can apply to. You can be a member of the European Parliament. You can be a minister of the Council of the European Union, for example. You can be a journalist. You can be what else? An interest representative, a photographer, or a conference interpreter. So naturally, I applied for the conference interpreting role. And so the goal was for the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union to have a debate. The goal is to mimic like the proper exchange and debate between the European Parliament and the Council of the European Union. And both parties have a debate about a proposal presented by the European Commission. And therefore, my role as a conference interpreter there was to interpret, well, all the exchange and all the debate between both parties. I was there with two other colleagues. We got along really well in the booth, which made the whole experience even more pleasant. And I got to know them quite well. And after that, over the summer, or before technically, because it was over the summer in 2022, so right before I took part in MEUS, right before then, I applied to take part in a conference interpreting traineeship at the Court of Justice of the European Union in Luxembourg. And it was quite a long process, to be honest. First, I filled out an online application. So I had to tell them about my experience, my language profiles, my language profile rather, sorry, my studies. I had to write a cover letter, and I had to detail everything, my studies and professional experience as well. And then I had to wait. to hear from them. And a few months later, I received an email asking if I was available to meet for an interview. So naturally, I made myself available, and I had an interview with two staff conference interpreters at the Court of Justice of the EU. I remember one was from the French booth, and another one was from the Danish booth, and he was also traineeship coordinator at the court. And the first part of the interview was in French, and the second part was in English, because as I work with French and English, they wanted to test both languages. And a few weeks later, that was, I believe, the last stage of the selection process. A few weeks later, then I had to interpret a speech from English into French in simultaneous. And that was the very last stage. Then I had to wait some more. And I had to wait for them to actually listen to my performance and assess my performance as well. And I had to wait a few more days, I think, after taking the test. And a few days later, I learned it was positive. And I learned that my traineeship was actually going to take place in October 2023. So a year after I had actually had the interview and then all the other selection stages. But so they actually asked if I was willing to wait that long. And I said, of course, yes, I'm sure it's absolutely worth it. I'll wait to then take part in my traineeship, because I believe there are two sessions each year. So one in May and another one in October. And usually they select 5 trainees each year, I think. So I believe there were 3 trainees in May, and then I was there in October with another trainee. And in the meantime, while I was waiting for my traineeship to start, well, I kept working on my skills. I kept practicing regularly, and I embarked on finding more clients and more assignments. I also learned about some of the difficulties of the profession, such as sound quality when interpreting remotely, for example. I was still, well, I'm still quite new to the profession, still starting out. What else? Yes, I learned about some of the difficulties that come with the profession, like the lack of documentation as well, and ensuring that the client understands how much preparation matters to provide high quality interpreting. So, as many of you know, and as most conference interpreters, I had to learn to adapt very quickly and efficiently adapt to the unexpected, which I think I'm getting better at now. Hopefully, hopefully that's the case. And then after a few more assignments, it was finally time for my traineeship at the court. And in the end, I didn't feel like I had been waiting for a year. I don't know. I feel like it went by quite quickly in the end. And so it's finally time for my traineeship to start. And I spent 2 months at the court, which sounds a bit short, I suppose, but it was so intense that the 2 months felt way longer than just 2 months. So in the end, perhaps 2 months were more than enough. And I was quite exhausted at the end of my traineeship. So the traineeship itself is very intense, but I never learned so much in such a short amount of time. I was there with another trainee, as I said before. We shared an office and we spent so much time together because we were together every day in the same office, working and preparing our different hearings. Sometimes we had the same hearing, so it was easier to brainstorm together in that case and talk about the hearing in question. And we spent so much time doing research, so much time reading through huge piles of documents, which can be quite stressful at first when you see all those documents on your table. You don't really know where to start, how to organize yourself. But at least we had documents. We had the proper conditions. Sorry, I'm seeing there's a question there. Oh, a good question. Yes, Susan's asking if the other trainee yes, if, wait, the question disappeared. If the other trainee had the same language profile as I did. No, actually, he was from Hungary. So he worked with Hungarian A, English B, and then he had French as a C language. So we had a few languages in common, so we could communicate whether in French or in English. And that was very interesting as well because I didn't know much about Hungary. So I got to learn a lot about that country as well. And what else? So we did, yeah, quite a lot together. And we got along really well. We brainstormed together. We created glossaries together to prepare for each hearing as best as possible. And in the end, we shared the whole experience together, and it really helped to have someone there to share the whole intensity with. And it was, yeah, it was a pleasure to work together.
Sabrina, may I ask you,
Yes.
because as part of the traineeship with the unbelievably large documents, did you develop a kind of strategy how you
Good
cope
question.
with this? Because this is
Yeah.
why I'm not really prefer to be a court interpreter, because then you
Hmm.
get this big stuff. Okay, for other stuff you can also have a lot of speeches
Yes.
and documentation, but yeah, maybe I have a bigger affinity to technical stuff. So
Okay.
for me, that's not such a problem. So I'm very curious,
Hmm.
how did you develop a strategy for this
Yeah,
kind of
that's a very good
preparation work?
that's a very good question. It's very relevant. To be honest, at first I wasn't sure how I would go about it. And then I remember we had a way more experienced conference interpreter who had been working at the court for uh 40 years, something like that. And he came to tell us about well how to better organize ourselves and how to prepare ourselves because well he had his own strategy, and then of course each conference interpreter has their own strategy, their own way of preparing. But still, he came to let us know about the way he usually prepares for a hearing. And then I remember I had to try a few times. Like I had to try a few different methods. Let's say at first, I remember there were so many documents that it was humanly impossible to read everything. So we were told that at least it'd be a good idea to read the report, the main report of the hearing, because that way we get to have an overview of at least who's doing what, who's representing who as well, and what's the main, yeah, the what are the main ideas, what's the main overview, the bigger picture of the hearing. And yes, at first I wasn't sure what I was what I was doing, or if I was doing it the right way. But in the end, I suppose there's no right way of doing that. And we simply need to find the way that works for us. Um, and what helped was I remember I wrote on, so I had different sheets of paper, and I used to write. I had one paper for I remember it was the arguments of, for instance, the European Commission, and then I had another one with the arguments of the other parties, and then I had another sheet of paper with all the main participants and their names, just to have everything with me in the booth. But because I needed to know who was speaking, what they were talking about, and why they were saying what they were saying. And so that was the strategy. I believe it was the same strategy as this other way more experienced conference
Yeah,
interpreter
I
who then,
follow the same strategy,
yeah.
because yeah, it's you get so much information. My um my problem always was to have short notes and not
Hmm.
copying what they are saying. So that's also something you have to learn
Yes. Yeah.
To make it very compact. And the other one is the right pronunciation of the names.
Yes, that's
Do you
important
have a
too.
strategy for this?
Oh, that's a very good question. That was difficult because sometimes there were I had to take relay, for example, from the English
Oh, yeah.
booth,
Yeah.
because I didn't speak the language on the floor. And I remember, I believe at some point it was Polish. And so I had no idea how to pronounce the names. Yes, in that case, I would, I believe usually at the very beginning of the hearing, they would introduce the judges and the lawyers as well. So it was a good idea to listen then, and to listen to the pronunciation to then get it right
But you don't
afterwards.
have a website where you can say, okay, I can Google this name and then I get maybe a voice of spoken how this name is pronounced.
Yeah, I guess with names, I don't know.
Mm.
I don't know if it exists.
Yeah, I know there is something, but it's more for the
Like proper
for the people
words.
who are publicly known. But if you have the
Yes.
judges and so on, or the defendant, these are other people. They aren't
Yeah, I
not
guess
publicly
it's
available.
yeah, if the person is someone that's a public figure or someone that's
Mm.
quite famous, then in that case, I guess it might be easier if you do some research to find out how to pronounce the name in question. But if I had no idea, for example, how to pronounce the name of a judge, then I would ask someone from a staff conference interpreter from at the court who knew way more than I did, or I would try to listen, yeah, and be attentive to the very beginning of the hearing when they would announce all the names of the judges and the lawyers, because yeah, you don't you don't want to mess up, well, someone's name. Or I'm reading the chat at the same time. I hope it answers your question,
Yeah.
Michael.
Yeah,
Because
great. Yeah.
I'm quite long in the business, but it's so nice to hear from the young interpreters
I'm glad.
with really had did the study, because I'm more someone, I did translation studies to become also translator interpreter, but the translation part was very small in my study. And I
Okay.
learned a lot by doing, but also now by hearing from you and other colleagues. So, and then I can see, okay, these are my limits, and here I'm very good. But what's really nice to hear from someone like you who did
Absolutely.
study and
Yeah.
I'm glad.
had the
I'm
start
happy it
in the
helps.
job itself. Absolutely, I'm very
And how did it
grateful with it.
continue after the trainee program? How did it continue? Or
So
yeah,
I was
continue with it.
yes, I was about to say, perhaps you're wondering what a typical day at the court looked like. So we usually interpreted between 2 and 3 hearings per week, and we had about 2 days to prepare. So the conditions were really good because we had access to all the documents, perhaps too many, too many documents. So it was yeah, another difficulty as well, and something I had to learn how to deal with. And at times we were allowed to choose what hearing we wanted to work on, and other times the traineeship coordinator chose for us. So we were assigned either this hearing or that hearing. And just to give you an idea, I used to go to the court around 9 a.m. And I used to prepare almost all day. And then I went back to my accommodation around 8 p.m., something like that. So the days were quite long, quite intense. And each Friday as well, we practiced with speeches to prepare for our EU accreditation test, because well, of course, we're free to decide if we want to take it or not. But the main goal was for us to prepare and perhaps come back one day as an EU accredited conference interpreter.
Yes, this
So
would
we
be
did that.
my second question.
Yeah,
How
go ahead.
did you protect your your free time, the weekends.
Oh my God.
Okay, you're
Yeah.
still in the beginning. I understand in a lot of professions, you have to do the first 1, 2 years. You have to invest a lot. Let's say teachers are investing a lot
Yeah.
in their profession, and then when you become older, you know how you can
Yes. How
yeah,
to manage
prepare
your
to
your
manage. Yes, yeah,
yes, yeah,
precisely.
I agree with you. Yes. Honestly, it was difficult at first. I had to find the right balance between being at the court and then trying to rest over the weekend. Oh, Lily's asking, where do you get the courtroom interpreter training? Um, so it's well, first I'll answer your question, Michael, and then I'll move on to the next question. Sorry about that. What was I saying?
It was about
Pick a day.
Thank you. Yes,
Dinner
the
time,
weekend.
dinner
for
time.
weekends.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yes.
sorry.
Sorry about that. Yeah, it was difficult at first. I had a hard time finding a balance between the two, and I had to, well, force myself a little bit to not to think of the court and not to think of the hearings, and I I forced myself to enjoy the weekend and get some fresh air, and I visited Luxembourg as well, which I had never been before, or where I had never been before. So I did that, and I really enjoyed it. It's a beautiful city. It was very cold. So it took some time and experience. But I think had I not rested over the weekend, I don't think it would have been possible to to be sane until the very end of the the traineeship.
Well
Um,
put. Yeah, exactly. To stay sane. Absolutely. Yeah.
yeah. Uh, and ever since the traineeship, I've been trying to do that now to over the weekend to focus on either resting or getting some fresh air and not necessarily interpret or always preparing for the next assignments. Just I guess it opened my eyes to the fact that I need to take care of myself as well and rest a little bit. And to answer Lily's question, so I didn't get any courtroom interpreting training. So it was still conference interpreting, and I had no knowledge of I mean, I had a little bit. I had some knowledge of European law because during my master's degree we had a class about the European Union and its history and how how the law works in the European Union. So I had some knowledge, uh, but then it wasn't enough,
But
obviously,
you had
because
but you didn't have, let's say, how the documents are structured, or
no,
uh, because this would be very important for us to know. We have to work with all these documents. What's the structure of the document?
yeah,
What's the importance in how can I find very
hmm
quickly the right document? What's
yes,
important in the document? What you said, a resume.
hmm
Where's the resume, and so on. So, but you didn't
yeah.
get this kind of.
I didn't know that before the
Ah,
beginning of
what
the
a pity.
traineeship, uh,
That's hard.
but I I did some research before the beginning of my traineeship just to have an overview of the institution itself, to know how it worked, and well, I believe that some cases are public, so I had access to a few hearings on the website of the court. Uh, but I'm trying to remember if I don't believe every document is accessible, but perhaps the main report, like the main summary of the hearing, might be accessible on the website. So I had to, yes, I had to learn step by step when it comes to legal concepts, European Union law, and it got better little by little. And yeah, I was also with other well conference interpreters who were staff or freelancers and who had been interpreting for so long that it was very useful. They were there to allow me to help me to learn. And yes, hopefully it answers your question, Lily.
Yeah, great. And I think Giuseppe also wants to say or ask something.
Yes, I was
Hi,
going to
Giuseppe.
say at least, hi Sabrina. At least here in Peru, they're
Yeah.
usually not all available. You can
Yes.
see
Okay.
what it is about, if it's drug dealing or if it's anything else, etc.
Yeah, I think it's the same.
Just basic things, but you can see the whole
Yeah,
written
exactly.
thing. You need to do a whole lot of things to get that kind of papers. So you usually just can know what kind of crime was committed, if it's a crime, if it's criminal, if it's civil, what they're talking about, etc. But just a brief summary.
Like
So
the
you
main
don't
points.
get
Yeah.
exactly, you don't get the whole structure.
Yeah,
You
it was the
can
same.
get that if you work
Yes, of course.
translating that kind of
Yeah.
the kind of documents, which
Yeah, it
was
was
my case. So I was lucky.
good. Yeah, it was the same thing. And so it was difficult to prepare for the traineeship and
do you work now
yeah.
with from Google Notebook? I think it's a new function where you can put several documents in this. Yeah, I think it's Google Notebook, and it tracks the main terminology. I don't know how
Oh,
it does
interesting.
it, but this is quite new. Let's say the last
Okay,
2 months maybe.
I'll have to look into that.
Yeah,
I wasn't aware.
yeah.
Okay, I'll have to look it up. Thank you, Michael. And just to finish then, so yes, it was very intense, and every day I was quite tired at the end of the day, and I just wanted to go home and sleep. However, it was absolutely worth it, and I improved so much in just 2 months. I had a mentor at the court as well, who was staff in the French booth. So she was there to listen to me every day, well, almost every day on the days when I was interpreting. And she was always there listening to me, and then she gave me relevant feedback, which absolutely helped. And she was great. She was very useful, very kind. And what else? I did, yes, at the end of my traineeship, I did notice that I improved quite a lot. I noticed that felt way more comfortable when it comes to the speaker's speed. I felt more comfortable in the booth in general. I was more comfortable with figures and case numbers and names of court rulings and legal concepts and terminology, or even just dealing with stress and nerves. So it definitely was a great experience. And I would, yes, I wish I could have stayed longer in the end, because I do miss it. And so throughout these 2 months, I interpreted a total of 16 hearings, and the topics were very varied. It included topics like banking, intellectual property, or trademark, what else? Restrictive measures, civil service, or state aid cases. So it was very diverse, and I got to learn a lot about many different topics. And after my traineeship, I had a small break because I needed some rest. And then after a few weeks, I went back to practicing and looking for more assignments. And finally, last year in July, I became an AIC pre-candidate thanks to my traineeship at the court, where I was able to meet other AIC members who listened to me in the booth and who were, in the end, kind enough to accept to present me as an AIC pre-candidate, which I'm very grateful about, and I'm very happy about that. And moreover, this year, I'm taking part in a mentoring program organized by AIC France, which is such a great opportunity as well to keep evolving and learning. So I've been paired up with a much more experienced French conference interpreter. So she's been an interpreter for 8 years, I believe, so way more than I. And she's based in Paris, and her role is to provide guidance and advice and to answer any questions I might have. So I'm very grateful for that opportunity as well. And she's always available to answer my questions, no matter the nature of the question. And what else? So I'm still freelancing, still looking for more assignments, still honing my skills, and I'm also considering moving to either Paris or Brussels in the near future to get more professional opportunities and perhaps one day pass my EU accreditation test. And I'm also considering spending some time in Spain to strengthen and improve my C language. So we'll see what the future holds. And I think I'm going to stop there. Thank you very much to you all for listening. And it was a pleasure to be here today.
Sabrina, I just found the stuff from Google.
Yes,
It's called Notebook LM, capital letters LM, and Josh Goldsmith from Tech Forward had a webinar about it, and he writes, ever spent hours manually combining through research documents? Google's new AI tool analyzes 180 pages and generates a glossary in seconds. And then it goes on and on.
Cool.
So
Can you
to say-
maybe share the name of it in the chat?
yes, it's Notebook LM. So you think it's a computer, but it's Notebook LM. I will put it in the chat.
And can we also give her a round of applause to
Absolutely.
Sabrina?
Thank you.
Can we do it a bit different today? Can we all maybe come on camera and maybe wave? And can I take a picture or a screenshot that I can share also on LinkedIn, if that's okay? So everybody come on camera. Let's take a screenshot. And thank you, Sabrina. This is for you. So I just take a screenshot of it. So thank you for coming to the stage. And this is it. I invite everybody who wants to become a spotlight speaker here. Come on and let me know. We can organize it. So anybody who hasn't heard yet but is willing to come on camera, please come on camera. First for a second to take a screenshot. Thank you. Some people came on camera. Wonderful. Let us wait another minute in case some people are just listening, alongside other things and they need to hear the keyword camera. Come on camera. Turn on your camera. Okay. All right. Let's do it now. I will click on it now. Okay. Smile, everybody. Okay, I think it's good. 1 second, let me take another one. I think in case anybody has their eyes closed or anything like this, I just need to quickly put it somewhere. Okay. Okay, just one more time. Smile, eyes open. Sabrina, thank you so much. You did a great job. Okay. All right. Okay, I think now. Oh, great, Michael. Wonderful. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I can add
Yeah,
something.
as well. Cool. Love it. Yeah. Please. Yeah, of course.
I use DeepL for everything and also for names.
En prononcer Sabrina Benelal.
So I just
see that's not the right pronunciation.
No,
it's not. Okay.
Almost.
Well, it's similar, but
It's similar.
well, in French, yeah, it would be Sabrina Benelal.
Okay.
Comment prononcer Sabrina Benelal?
So it sounds a bit like Benelal, and it's Benelal. But
maybe it's enough for the booth.
Yeah, that's really for me. It's like, wow, okay.
Like
2080
80%.
volt. It's not perfection.
Yeah, exactly.
Great. No, really great. Thank you, Sabrina. Look, and
Thank you.
the hour is easily filled. This is amazing and super interesting. And guys, I didn't know about this amazing journey within the EU and so on. Wow, it's amazing. And the traineeship and everything. Super, super. And thank you for sharing it so openly, Sabrina. I think we all learned a lot. Are there any questions, by the way? I think also maybe Susan wanted to maybe earlier say something. I don't know. You unmuted earlier, Susan. If not, of course, all good.
Yep, but I think she answered the question before I got to ask, so
perfect.
Well,
Yeah,
there you go.
well prepared. Yeah. See, that's such a natural. Yeah. Please, Giuseppe.
There's a question in the chat from Lily.
Lily, ask. What do you have to? What do you want to ask? Come on, unmute. Yeah, Lily, please.
I would also congratulate you on your very pure English accent, Sabrina.
Sorry, I'm not sure
I would also congratulate you
Oh.
on your very pure English accent.
Thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say.
You
Thank
wouldn't know that you had been in Ireland for a year.
Oh.
It's
Well, I
very
was in
good.
the end. I was there for 3 years.
yeah, but it doesn't.
My question. Okay. My question is when the witness say I signed the contract, did the legal interpreter in France interpret that I signed the contract or
So
the contract was executed? Which one do you
yeah.
use?
So I think I need to make the distinction between court interpreting because it was still conference interpreting, but the topic was legal.
Exactly.
But it wasn't let's say court interpreting as you would see it in French courts because so the I'm trying to think and explain.
The European Court of Justice is an institution.
Yes.
So, yeah.
So they dealt with conflicts either between countries or between the institutions themselves. And so I don't. It was it was the conditions were different. I don't think it's exactly the same thing as court interpreting, because there was still the element of conference interpreting to it, but the topics were I dealt with legal topics, that's for sure. But I think there was some.
I think it's different from court interpreting because you didn't have an accused who didn't speak the local language. It's more
exactly, that's the thing,
that the European countries all had to understand the processes that were happening in the institution.
You, for explaining it better than I could.
So when you do interpreting, it's like a verbatim, right? Verbatim.
No.
No.
No, it's still conference interpreting. So I was still well, you're still allowed to have your coping strategies. Well, of course, you're not supposed to emit
Paraphrase.
Yeah. But you can still, yes, if needed, just like in conference interpreting, if it's going too quickly, and well, you can have coping mechanisms and coping strategies, and so it's that's also one difference, I suppose.
Maybe for the people on the call who are not in Europe, because I was lucky enough to visit the EU in Brussels for 3 days last May, and so the principle of the European Union is that there are 24 native languages, and that everyone who speaks at the European Union or at the European Court of Justice has the right to express themselves in their own language. And that's why there's a huge need for interpreters of all those different languages, both in Brussels, where the European Commission is centred, and in Luxembourg, where the Court of Justice is located.
Hopefully, Lily, the distinction is clear between court interpreting and conference interpreting at the court.
Right. Interesting,
Yeah, absolutely interesting. Yeah, great. Any other last comments or questions? It's already the top of the hour, guys. We aim for an hour to be mindful of your time.
The only thing I will say is I'm jealous. I would have liked to have your it's hard your study, but I'm so jealous I couldn't do it. So, but okay, my way is different. I didn't end in at the EU, but I'm more into free market, and there's a lot of variety and different stuff.
Yeah,
I had to climb on a train and under the train, become dirty, and these other parts of this is also very interesting. Interpreting stuff, jobs, which I wouldn't do if I would work for the EU or another international organization. So, but I really have a lot of respect of what you did, and
thank you, Michael.
Absolutely good.
But like you said, everyone has a different journey, and that's what makes it interesting. Also, I suppose.
True.
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. And this is also a good keyword. Like everybody has a journey to share. So, guys, you can be a spotlight speaker here. Just, message me directly and on school, the direct messaging area. And, we will set it up. This is what this community lives from. And it's so, so great. And, Sabrina just said yes immediately, like, yes, I will be a spotlight speaker. It's so great. So just, as you see, we're all easygoing. We're here to support each other. And, this is really, I hope, a platform where you don't feel afraid to come to the camera and on stage, let's say on the virtual stage. So yeah, you're really all welcome to speak here. And but with that, I guess we can wrap it up. Any last burning questions, comments for Sabrina?
Yeah, and I have a
Okay,
question for
cool.
next week. Do you
Yeah,
want me
Michael will be
to do
our
the
spotlight speaker next
Yeah.
week.
yeah, because what can happen about fake job offers? That's my
Yeah, beware of fake job
Yeah.
interpreting postings. This is
that's
what
true.
Michael
That's
you
what
will
we'll talk
share
about.
with us.
And it's happened to me, luckily without damage, but yeah, it's becoming more and more difficult to see what's okay and what is fake. So
Yeah.
that's what I want to
So
talk
also a
about.
very important topic.
And
That's
we
next
will
week.
start at 11:30, I think.
We will discuss it. You can and I can discuss it
Yeah,
privately,
because
and I will announce it.
yeah, because I'm not
soon.
free and at 3 o'clock because then I follow the
Yeah.
master course for
We can discuss
co-translators
it, Michael,
AI.
and then we announce it. Maybe also further in the evening, depending on
Yeah,
But
okay.
I know that we are like international now, and it's cool
true.
to have a time where multiple
That's
people
true, where
can.
everyone
But
can,
look, from
yeah.
Peru and then Thailand, this is such a big time zone
I know,
difference.
I
This
know.
is like, and both speakers, so amazing. So really, and Giuseppe here. All right. Okay, but yeah, so next week, Michael, time to be announced. Check your emails, please, and in the school community, the Terps Practice Network. Yeah, and super excited and have a great rest of your week. Tomorrow, interpreting practice with Lavinia and Antonio. If they change anything, please check only the school community, because I am only the master of the emails, and sometimes we cannot guarantee if they have something last minute that I can send out the emails. In the school community, they will post something if it's cancelled or postponed or something. All right. And with that, have a great rest of your week. And I think I will see Wendy soon in an hour at an interpreting assignment with 26 other interpreters, if it's the right Wendy here. I think, because if anybody's following me on Instagram, by the way, I shared it last week. So there's an online interpreting assignment on Zoom with 26 interpreters, and it worked fine. No technical problems. I mean, the first rehearsal, okay, but really great. And I think I see one of them in here as well. I think Wendy is there as well. Well, anyhow, I think she doesn't hear it now. Oh, yes, Wendy, yes. It's not me. It's not me. Okay, sorry, it's another Wendy. But look, Wendy is such an original name. Okay. Well, okay, but great that you are here, Wendy, in our meeting. So it's way more important anyways. All right, with that, really have a great rest of your week, and see you next
Thank you
week.
again.
Bye-bye.
Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Bye.